What's up, guys? Welcome to this edition of a Funko Popcast. I'm DK Wrestler.
And I'm MD Shady.
And in today's podcast, it is another NFT podcast. Which Funko NFT sets deserve a series 2? We're going to be going through every single Funko NFT drop that has redeemables and determining our opinion of whether we think they deserve a series 2 or not. Without further ado, MD, are you ready for this?
Absolutely.
TMNT Series 1. So this had a lot of people hyped because TMNT being a very popular licensor for Funko, and whether it deserves a Series 2 or not, I think it does. I actually think they should already been at like Series 3 or 4 at this point. I think it would have been a nice like yearly tradition that they do every August on the anniversary of when the Funko NFT started, that they should do a Ninja Turtles drop. And especially it's such a big license that I believe it's maybe the only license out there that spans between multiple different sets, because there's the television lineup, the movies lineup, the comics lineup, and then the retro toys lineup. So I think it definitely deserves not only a series 2, but a series 3 and maybe a series 4, because it ranges throughout different sets that I think it's possible they could make multiple sets.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with that. With the Turtles, there's, like you said, like the different variations with the movies, the comics, the television show, or like the animation. And I feel like there's just a lot of different things they can do with TMNT. And there's so many different characters that we've seen in pop form, but there's so many more that we haven't seen yet.
The Big Boy Funko Series 1 set, a nice little ad icon set. There was only 3 redeemables, I believe. I think it was like Big Boy with the puffy face and he's eating the burger, the like burger pop that was a legendary, which I still think to this day that they can easily remold and make it a Big Mac Funko Pop for a McDonald's foodie at some point. And then there was also the Big Boy with the shake, I believe. And in my opinion, I don't think there should be a Series 2 NFT set. I think this was good enough.
Yeah, again, I'm going to agree with you on that one. The first series, I wasn't a huge fan of, though I am a huge fan of ad icons. So, with that being said, yeah, I definitely don't want to see a second or third series.
The Iron Maiden Series 1 set, which once again, this set had 3 redeemables. I believe there was 2 different versions of Eddie, and then that absolutely fire Freddy Funko, no pun intended, considering that the pop is completely on fire. I think that pop is kind of like the huge highlight of the set, although you do have the Grail that is the only one to this day that has a lower piece count than 999 pieces. I don't think they should do a Series 2, not because I didn't like how Series 1 was, but this is one of those cases where I think they're doing a good job now that they're just presenting other Eddies in the form of regular releases or Comic-Con exclusives. And I'm very surprised to this day that we still have not seen a Pop Rocks Funko NFT line since then.
Yeah, again, I'm going to have to agree on that. I think the only way that they could really get away with doing it and have people really be hyped for it is if it was only pop albums in it for the redeemables, but I don't see that happening. And there's been quite a few Iron Maiden pops, so I don't really think they need another series anyways.
The Star Trek Funko Series 1. This one's a little bit complicated to think of an answer because they were just blacklight versions of already existing characters. For the most part, it was like that new set that came out that year, but slapped with the blacklight. I think a couple of them they actually didn't make as a part of the set, but just doing it blacklight form and technically now confirmed. I don't know if they're considering it as a Series 2 Star Trek or it's its own Series 1, but they did confirm as one of the ones coming out in the month of March of this year in 2024 is a Star Trek The Next Generation set. So I don't know if they're considering that a Star Trek Series 2 or that's just Series 1 of the Next Generation and not the original one. But I hope that set ends up doing better than this as terms to looking good. But as terms to an actual Star Trek, maybe. But for right now, I'm going to say I don't want to see a Series 2.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't necessarily want to see a series 2, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do. And if they do consider the next generation set a series 2, I'd be perfectly okay with that. And I got a feeling that the pops for this one might be pretty sweet, a lot better than the blacklight ones that we've seen.
the Bob Ross Funko Series 1 set, which there was a total of, I believe, 4 redeemables. And I will say straightforward, I don't think there should be a Series 2. This was, I guess, in a way, a little bit of a niche set. So I don't think it should have a Series 2.
As much as I love Bob Ross, I feel like there's so many, maybe even too many Funko Pops of Bob Ross. I mean, there was like 3 or 4 in like the common wave of Bob Ross pops. There's obviously the NFT pops now. And then if you consider the Deadpool, like Bob Ross, a Bob Ross pop, that's just a lot of pops for a guy who's literally just a painter. So yeah, I don't think there should be a series 2.
The Retro Comics Series 1 set, it was all right, but with the redeemables that ended up happening for this, it should have been Popeye Series 1, not Retro Comics, because literally out of the 4 redeemables, 3 of them were Popeye and then 1 was Flash Gordon. I wish this was a set where, in this case, you would have had 5 or 6 redeemables and you were able to kind of branch out to what Retro Comics would be, because I always find Retro Comics would be more of OG Archie comics, and then like Richie Rich, who has never been done in a pop form before, and then maybe you could have like 1 or 2 Popeyes and then keep the Flash Gordon. But in this case, what you should have just done is get rid of that Flash Gordon, put Olive Oil in there, and call it a Popeye Series 1 rather than Retro Comics. I would maybe like to see a series 2 for the sake of how I pitch of how a retro comic set should be. But for right now, if it's going to be just like based off of one thing, I don't want to see it. But I'll just say for right now, I would like to see a series 2 to kind of redeem themselves from series 1.
Yeah, I definitely want to see a series 2, but kind of like you said, I don't think it should just be filled with Popeye pops again, though those were some awesome pops. I just feel like we don't really need that many more. We could probably just see them in like a common wave. But I would like to see characters, like you said, like Richie Rich.
Next up is Scooby-Doo Funko Series 1. Scooby-Doo was a banger with obviously the Redbeard pop. You had the Grail of Scooby-Doo as the superhero. There was also the Snow Ghost finally being made, because I believe the soda released before then with like the 6-pack. There was Charlie the Robot, I believe. And then the royalty, I believe, was Freddie Funko as Captain Cutler. Yeah, obviously it deserves a Series 2 because of how successful Series 1 was, in my opinion.
Yeah, I got to agree with that. I really wish I would have went in on this drop because there's a lot of really cool pops there that I would have liked to obtain. And that being said, there's a lot of other Scooby-Doo characters that I would love to see in Funko Pop form. So I definitely hope there is a series 2, and I would definitely get in on that to hopefully get some of those characters that I do want to see.
Next set is the Kellogg's Funko Series 1 set. A lot of the redeemables were cool. Tony the Tiger Jr. for the Grail. There was Cornelius in the Legendary set, which MD does own the physical redemption for that. There was Coco the Monkey and Sugar Pops Pete, I believe. And then what I felt was a bit of a lackluster pop, that being the Freddy Funko as Diggum Frog. I think they could have chosen something else for the royalty, but this is still a set that was really cool because obviously you see a trend a lot of times with the Funko NFTs, whether it is Nickelodeon or something Warner Brothers related, while this is something that's neither of them. So I always like seeing those obscure sets that you're not used to seeing for the Funko NFTs. And yeah, I would love to see another Ad Icons NFT set, because we haven't had any since this Series 1, whether it is a Kellogg Series 2, which I will say right now, I guess, yes, I would like to see a Kellogg Series 2, or maybe you do General Mills this time around. But I would like to see another Ad Icon set. But right now, I will say yes to Kellogg Series 2.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. I would definitely like to see a second series, but even more than that, yeah, maybe like a General Mills or any other kind of ad icons. But I do think Funko could probably pull off doing another Kellogg set, hopefully without any repeat pops, and then of course them going and making some of these pops in a common form afterwards, which isn't great. But yeah, I would definitely love to see a second series for the Kellogg's NFTs.
Next set is the My Little Pony Funko Series 1 set. And I remember the day when, like, after the Kellogg's dropped happened, and then usually they post the next announcement on the Friday, I believe, or maybe not around this time, because I think they were still doing monthly drops instead of the bi-weekly drops. But I remember going from Kellogg's and then My Little Pony being like, what the is this? Like I'm not too mad about it now. I think it is like kind of cool that they did this and kind of makes sense for the NFTs. But this is something that's like, okay, it's cool that they did a series one, but I don't think they need a second series.
Yeah, I got to agree with that as well. There were some cool pops. For example, the royalty pop, which I believe was Freddie Funko as Spike, I think his name is. I
Yeah.
can't remember. But I thought that pop was pretty cool. I do like that character. But yeah, I definitely don't think there needs to be a second series.
Jay and Silent Bob. Now, this was only a three pop set with, I believe, the Grail being the Silent Bob with the gas mask. And then you have Jay with like the pixelated private part, which I thought was pretty funny. And then the royalty being the movies meal Freddy Funko or the movies worker Freddy Funko, which I thought was pretty cool. That was a very nice way of making that royalty. This was okay. Like, I don't think it was the greatest, but I don't think it was super bad either. And I think it is a set that, under the banner of Jay and Silent Bob, I don't think there should be a series two because I think this is fine. But the only way I feel there could be a series two is if they branch out to those other movies like Clerks or Mallrats or stuff like that to kind of continue off this series as maybe a series one of that. Other than that, under the Jay and Silent Bob banner, I don't think there should be a series two.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. You basically took the words right out of my mouth. If they were to branch out from that, it should definitely be Clerks or maybe even Mallrats or Dogma. But even then, I don't know if it's necessary.
The next set is the Avatar Legends Funko Series 1. This was another set, once again, I guess under the Nickelodeon banner, that people went nuts for. And I remember people flipping out about that Fire Nation and Grail. There were so many people that, like, I don't remember looking on Atomic Hub, seeing how expensive this pop was getting. Like, it was probably one of the most expensive I've seen while looking on the aftermarket for Grails. And that was crazy. I love the royalty of Freddie Funko in the Aang costume. I think that was well done. Painted Lady, one of the redeemables there for the Legendary, I think it was nice. And the thing I do like about this also is that it's under the name Avatar Legends because it wasn't just Avatar The Last Airbender. There was also the spin-off show of The Legend of Korra added to this set. So I really like how maybe if you're just Avatar The Last Airbender, you only have to focus on those pops, especially with actually recently there was the Netflix movie or series that just recently released. I wouldn't be surprised if they do a series two. And I think to take advantage of said hype, they should do a series two of this set.
Yeah, this set was gorgeous. I mean, the pops are awesome. There was a lot of hype around the set as well. So I definitely think there should be a series too. I don't know what characters they would do, but they could go the route of doing more of Legend of Korra stuff, or they can give us some more characters from Avatar that we haven't seen in pop form, or versions of those characters that people actually want to see.
Then the next set, and definitely one that has a soft spot in MD's heart, is Looney Tunes Funko Series 1. This thing is a banger set. There is not really any bad things you can say about this set. This thing sold out so quickly. A lot of the redeemables are awesome. Even the ones that they did other versions of ended up being better than the actual pops they did, like the Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner, I find, are better than the Funko Shop exclusives they did. You had the first Yosemite Sam regular version. We did get the Black Knight from New York Comic Con, but people want the regular version. And then Foghorn Leghorn was a huge fan favorite. Once again, it's another pop MD has for a redeemable in his collection. And then the Freddy Funko as Bugs Bunny, I think it was to be expected. It is still a little bit meh, but I do like the attention to detail of adding the crown covering the one ear instead of in between. I thought that was a pretty smart decision to do. So I definitely think, obviously, they should do a series two, but I don't want to go into this thinking that it's going to exceed number one because that's kind of some huge shoes to fill right there to try to see if you can be as good or even better as this series one set we're talking about.
I love this set. It's one of my favorite NFT sets of all time. Of course, I'm a big fan of Looney Tunes and I do collect the pops. And this set gave us Foghorn Leghorn, which is amazing. My favorite character from Looney Tunes. And yeah, I do own that pop. So I definitely think that there should be more series, more than even one, like a series two. I think that this could go up to series three, series four. And hopefully it does. And I definitely need to start buying some of those pops from that original drop because they've kind of eluded me and I definitely want those in my collection. But with a series two, if we do get one, I would definitely love to see like some weird, obscure kind of side characters rather, because I feel like at this point we have seen most of the main characters from Looney Tunes in Funko Pop form.
Next set we have is the Game of Thrones Funko Series 1 set. It's hard for me to kind of judge Game of Thrones since I've only seen a couple of seasons. And not only that, when you're dealing with a set that has so many pops, so many to the fact that it's not even in the television lineup, it's literally in its own lineup, Pop Game of Thrones, that you don't really know what they could do next. And it was a little bit iffy to make an NFT set, but not really at the same time. So I think it was fine doing a series one, but obviously I don't think they should do a series two, in my opinion, for this.
Yeah, I got to agree. There's just too many Game of Thrones pops, and for that reason, I wouldn't like to see a series two.
All right, so unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond our control, MD Shady will not be here for the remainder of the podcast. And we will continue, obviously, with Warner Brothers Horror Series 1. This was an all right set. I do like the mashups of the different Warner Brothers horror, like Conjuring, and we had a couple of It pops, and I believe we actually had an Exorcist pop for the first time besides Negan. So that was pretty cool. The Crooked Man was probably my favorite of the set. And does it deserve a series two? I don't think we need a series two, honestly. I think at this point, if you want to continue with horror, you can do the separate licenses like they did later on with It, which we'll talk about. Then we got the Matrix Funko Series 1 set, and this set was also okay. It was really awesome to see the Grail being pulled off since it's basically replicating one of the best movie scenes of all time with the dodging of the bullet. And then you had a couple of other cool pops, but as terms to a Series 2, I once again think that we probably do not need a Series 2 for The Matrix. You can just make Comic-Con exclusives from this point forward. Next set is the Elf Funko Series 1 set, and this was a really awesome set. There was a lot of newer characters that hadn't been made previously for the Elf lineup, but of course there were some moments from Buddy the Elf that hadn't been made either, but were still made, like the Buddy the Elf eating the spaghetti. We had new characters like Ming Ming and of course Leon the Snowman, which was a highly requested pop for that set. I felt like the Buddy the Elf with the Arctic Puffin was a little bit unnecessary considering that it probably would have been cheaper just to buy the deluxe moments rather than getting that Grail NFT pop. But do I think it deserves a series two? I want to say yes because of how enjoyable it is, but I'm going to say no. But I think if you're going to make future Christmas sets, like MD mentioned earlier, do a Freddy Funko Christmas set or another Christmas movie like Jingle All the Way that already had a set of pops. And then the last set of 2022, that being Hasbro Retro Toys Funko Series 1. This was an enjoyable idea, but I didn't necessarily like some of the executions that were made, like the fact that we had two Transformers Mr. Potato Head pops, while we could have had one Transformers and one Mr. Potato Head realistically. I didn't think we need the Stretch Armstrong at all, and I think I was okay with the Furby, but the highlight clearly of this set was the first ever Hungry Hungry Hippo pop, and then the Freddy Funko I thought they could have done better, so it was an all right set. Do I think it deserves to be a series two? I do think so, because I feel like they can definitely make a much better series two next time around than what they pulled off for series one. Then the first set of 2023 was the Sid and Marty Krofft Pictures Series 1 set. And I'm just going to say it straightforward. It does not need a Series 2. I think already this was such a very niche-y licensor, and this pertains to more of an older demographic. I feel like this set was better off if you're going to do them limited, do them as Comic-Con exclusives. And for the most part, also, the Grail was probably one of the cheapest, including when the Redemption coin came out. So yeah, I don't think this needs to have a Series 2. Next up is the DC Teen Titans Go Series 1 set, and this was a not too bad set. I mean, I think it definitely made sense, and I thought some of the pops were pretty cool, but some of them were meh, like Aqualad was meh, Bumblebee, I believe it was, that one was all right, but I think some of my favorites were like the Slade, I think that was the fan favorite, Red Robin, Titan Robot, and even the Freddy Funko as Beast Boy was a pretty cool pop. Does it deserve a Series 2? At this time, I don't think so. Then we have House of the Dragon Funko Series 1. Once again, it's kind of the same thing with Game of Thrones. It's like it is the prequel to Game of Thrones, but the thing that I will give the edge to this over Game of Thrones is the fact that it is a newer series, so there isn't as many pops as there are Game of Thrones. You could get away with having a series 2, but I think especially with this set not selling out, that I don't think there should be a series 2. Next up is the Dungeons and Dragons Funko Series 1 set, and this set was awesome. Funko always kills it with the Dungeons and Dragons Funko Pops in or outside of the NFTs. And even in the rumor mill, there is currently set to be a Dungeons and Dragons Series 2 set, so I'm all for that. So regardless of whether it was or not on this potential list, I definitely think that it deserves a Series 2. Next set is the Funko April Fool's Series 2023 set, and this was a very obscure set. I remember when this was originally rumored, I didn't even think that it was actually a real set and that it ended up being fake, but it ended up being real, and there's rumors of a 2024 set. So technically in the rumor mill, there may be a Series 2 in a way with Series 2024, but do I think there should be a Series 2? I think there can, but I don't think there's going to be a Series 3. I don't think there's enough April Fool's jokes that Funko has done over the years for them to constantly make this a yearly thing like they can do with the Halloween and maybe if they do a Christmas set. I just don't think they'll be able to pull it off for a Series 2025 in this case. They probably would pull off for a Series 2024, and that's it. Then we got the Flintstones Funko Series 1 set, and this set was really cool. This was a set, obviously a part of Hanna-Barbera, but a big enough licensor just like Scooby-Doo that could be made as its own NFT set. And I think that this set definitely does deserve a Series 2. Next up is DC's The Dark Knight Trilogy Series 1, and this set is such a banger. For me to decide whether there should be a Series 2 or not is very difficult, considering that this set was so good that if they do make a Series 2, that I just don't think it's going to be as great as Series 1. The Series 1 just kind of set the bar for the Dark Knight Trilogy to where I just don't know if it's going to be tops. So I feel like I don't want to go into this thinking that it's going to be better, but I will say for the sake of how successful Series 1 was, that there realistically should be a Series 2 set with different characters to be made, and who knows, maybe this time around we will get Joker in the nurse outfit. Then we got Adventure Time Funko Series 1, and this was a fun set. You had a mix of new characters, but some characters that have already been made, but different versions, like the Grail of Old Man Finn the Human. I think that was cool. You had the Randy Butternubs, which is kind of a spinoff of Jake the Dog, which is really cool. You also had Jake the Dog in the royalty form with Freddie Funko in the Jake costume with those ripped abs. And then you had some new characters like Peppermint Butler and Lady Raincorn. I think overall this was a fun set. And does it deserve a Series 2? I can say yes, but for right now I'm going to say no, because I would like to see different Cartoon Network series get a Series 1 before getting a Series 2, which there is another Cartoon Network set that we're going to be talking about in a little bit. Then we got It Funko Series 1, and this was a set where at first we did not know how this was going to be. This was a set that I had low expectations for, but exceeded those expectations, where the majority of the set was not a ton of Pennywise. We did get two with the Grail and the Royalty, but then it's just characters that aren't Pennywise, which I do really enjoy. And then talking about when I mentioned about Warner Brothers Horror and expanding into the separate licensors, this is an example of it. And as terms to does it deserve a Series 2? I think in this case, no, because I don't know how much more they can do with it realistically. Especially, they already dabble into so many Pennywises. I don't know how many characters they can do that aren't Pennywise anymore. So I'm just going to say no for right now, that they should make a Series 2. Next up is Stranger Things Funko Series 1, and this set was kind of the opposite, where we had a lot of hype going into it because it's a popular licensor within Funko, but kind of fell flat in my opinion. But it kind of fits the mold of what most NFTs should be, where it's pops that maybe for the most part you might not need, but if you're a really, really, really hardcore fan of Stranger Things, you might need these into your collection, and it's kind of like a bonus set. Hence how these pops were made, because it's basically based off of of the picture with the boys and the dragon for D&D. So that's how they made the pops. And then you have that Freddie Funko as Eddie Munson, or as people call it, Freddie Munson Pop, which is all right. I've explained my opinion about this pop in the past, but does it deserve a series two? Yeah, I think it's a big enough licensor to where it should deserve a series two, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make one either in 2024 or maybe 2025, when most likely the fifth and final season of Stranger Things happens. Next up is Steven Universe Funko Series 1, and talk about Cartoon Network licensors with their first series. This is an example. Steven Universe was a popular set for Funko Pops for a while, and so having an NFT set is really cool, especially I believe the majority of these pops, besides one, are pops that have not been made yet. So that's really awesome. I love seeing that when it comes to the NFTs. And then I love the aspect of, even though it's supposed to be Freddie Funko as Steven Universe, it's kind of the other way around, because they took Steven Universe and then added that orangey reddish hair to Steven to kind of give the effect of Freddie Funko. But once again, I'll say the same thing as I said with Adventure Time. Let's give the chance for more Cartoon Network series to get a series one before having licensors like Steven Universe in this case get a series two. Then we have Jurassic Park Funko Series 1, and this was also a pretty fun drop. This was a set that I had a little bit of low expectations, but they were exceeded by a little. I really enjoyed that grail of the mosquito in amber. I think that was really awesome. And then you had a couple pops that were cool, like the Ellie Sattler, since that's their first standalone pop. The T-Rex and Banner, which was all right. And then, of course, the Royalty, which I felt like was the most predictable Royalty, because I think if that wasn't the Royalty, I think it would have been not the greatest in my opinion for the set. But does it deserve a series two? I'm gonna say no, not because I wouldn't want to see a series two, but I think that if they did a series two, it would probably be like, let's say, Jurassic Park Dominion or Jurassic Park World, or Jurassic World is what it's called, for the second series. And I think it would have been such a huge letdown compared to this series. So let's keep it at series one, especially because this was celebrating the 30th anniversary of that original movie. Next up is the Warner Brothers 100th Series 1 set. So this is weird because technically you can't ask for a series 2 for something that celebrates a 100th anniversary, because you can only celebrate a 100th anniversary once. So I feel like by default, you can't ask for a series 2 of something that now we're technically at year 101 for Warner Brothers. Next up is Back to the Future Funko Series 1, a set that I absolutely love, and a set that I just sent in my redemption tokens for the redeemables, and I can't wait to get them. This is an awesome set. It has a mix of characters we've already gotten, like Doc and Marty, which is to be expected, but a lot of them we haven't had, like Lorraine, George, and Griff. And then the Freddy Funko is pretty decent. Also, does it deserve a Series 2? Oh, this is tough, because I feel like they could do a series 2, but once again, it's kind of in that realm of like, it's such a good series 1 that if they make a series 2, it might not be the greatest. I'm going to say for right now, as much as I would love to see a series 2, let's keep it at just a series 1. Next up is the Powerpuff Girls Funko Series 1 set, and this was an all-right set. Of course, you did have the Powerpuff Girls, like the different versions, and then you had a decent version of Mojo Jojo. I think a little bit of an underrated one for the Grail, and of course there was for the Royalty, but of course the fan favorite was Professor Utonium, a character that had never been made previously into Funko Pop form before. But does it deserve a series 2 or not? I'm gonna say probably not at this moment. I would like to see series 2 with newer characters for the most part, but for right now, once again, like I mentioned with Steven Universe and Adventure Time, let's see another Cartoon Network series get a series 1 before seeing a series 2. Next up is the Disney Mickey and Friends drop, the last drop of 2023, and I'm just going to say straight up, I don't want to see a series 2 of this. I think this was already such a lackluster drop for the very first Disney Funko NFT drop. I mean, it was a neat idea on paper, but with how these pops look, they just seem like they're pops you can buy at your local Hot Topic or GameStop. So they just did not feel like NFT pops. Then we got the first set of NFTs for 2024. It is Squid Game Funko Series 1. And this set was all right. I know a lot of people hated it, especially because it is a licensor that I feel like the hype for it has kind of died down a lot. If this set was released earlier than it was, I think there would have been more hype to it than there is now. And I think the redeemables are pretty decent with like the front man who has never been made into pop form as the Grail, and then one of the players, I forget the number of it, like 101, I think, one of the antagonist ones actually being a legendary, and then the Seong Ji-hun from the end of the season. Those are really cool pops. But I think if these were released earlier, I think it would have gotten a little bit more hype. But I will say, I don't think there should be a series 2 for this set. Then we got ourselves Harry Potter Funko Series 1, and this set was pretty cool. It's actually got the most redeemables out of any set with 7, and for the most part, all the redeemables are based off of the Goblet of Fire, and I think that this is a pretty decent set. And does it deserve a Series 2? I think this is a licensor that, regardless of whether I said yes or no, it probably will get a Series 2 and probably will get a Series 3 because obviously there are 8 movies or 7 books for this, so there's probably going to be another series. Next up is Fantastic Plastic Series 2, which of course Series 1 was no redeemables, so Series 2 is with redeemables. And does it deserve a Series 3? I'm going to say no. I think it was fine as a first set with redeemables as it is, because it's very nichey with the very hardcore OG Funko fans, that's why it did not end up selling out as we all thought it was going to be with the low packs of, I believe, 15K each for standard and premium. So I think keeping it just one series for redeemables is perfectly fine, and then you just keep continuing if you're making new Fantastic Plastic characters as Comic-Con exclusives. Then we got Space Jam Funko Series 1, and I think that this set was really cool for the most part. I do think the Grail is a little bit lazy considering it is the same exact swag hammer as the OG one, except it's adding the Nerd Lux. But I do like some of the other pops, like the M3 Purple Monster, or whatever his name, Bupkis, whatever his name is. The Lola Bunny that's in there is pretty cool. And then the Daffy and Bugs Bunny are all right. And then the Freddy Funko Toon Squad player was a pretty smart move to make that as the royalty. Does it deserve a Series 2? I definitely think it does deserve a Series 2. I think there is a potential for other characters that haven't been made, especially the other Monstars, to be made for a next set. So I think it should have a Series 2. But anyways, guys, that's going to be the end of this edition of a Funko Popcast. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your opinions in the comment section below, and we hope to see you guys next time on an edition of a Funko Popcast. 1, 2, 3... I'm out of here, and even though MD Shady's not here, I'm still gonna say peace in, peace out.